I'm a big believer in the Cardano ecosystem, and one of my favorite projects that is helping create incredible DeFi innovation in that ecosystem is Meld. Now, Meld is taking DeFi to new levels, and what they are doing is very exciting. Today, Ken Olling, the CEO of Meld and co-founder, is joining us. We're going to dive deeper into what Meld is and where they are, where they're at on their roadmap, as well as where they're going. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. And if you like money in crypto and you're looking for a real investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. You can do that as simply as liking this video and subscribing with the all notifications bell enabled. Special note, I'm not a financial advisor. I am a crypto investor myself. I do own or plan to own most of what I talk about on this channel because I don't talk about crypto projects that I don't believe in. There we go. Just had to make an adjustment. I'm just going to say that part. I don't know if it cut off my sound. I was trying to turn that audio down. So D, go ahead and start at, I'm not a financial advisor. I am a crypto investor myself. I do own or plan to own most of what I talk about on this channel because I don't talk about crypto projects I don't believe in. Special thanks to our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to. Now make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show. Let's welcome our guest, Ken Olling. Very excited to have you on, Ken.
Hey, Jay. I'm super happy to be back. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Honestly, Meld is one of my favorite projects in the whole ecosystem. So I love our interviews. I love that you come out and update our audience on what's going on in Meld. You were gracious enough to come on twice in the early days of Meld as people were trying to figure out what it was and whether to delegate and try this whole new idea of initial stake pool offerings.
Yeah.
And the people I know participated in it have been very happy with it.
Seems that everybody has been pretty happy with the model. Last time I checked, there was more than 50 ISPOs running after ours, sort of concurrently. So, I mean, you know, sort of the fact that it's been copied and it's been used and it is sort of out there is really, really flattering. So I'm really happy that it's caught on because I think it's a fantastic model.
Absolutely. You weren't the first to come up with the idea. You were the first to implement it, and you did a very successful implementation.
We were the craziest. We were the first. We were crazy enough to actually go and do it as opposed to just talk about it.
Yeah. Now, for those that haven't caught our previous interviews, like newer audience members joining, or perhaps they saw the title and want to see what Meld was all about, could you share with the audience what Meld is?
Sure. So Meld is a lending and borrowing protocol. We're a DeFi protocol, which means that we're non-custodial and we're decentralized. And so the goal of Meld is to be able to allow people that have crypto to lock their crypto up in a smart contract and borrow either crypto or fiat against it. So the sort of secret sauce or the special characteristic of what we are offering is the ability to go from crypto to fiat. And so with that, you can basically say that Meld is the banking stack for DeFi because we're the only lending and borrowing protocol that goes to fiat that is non-custodial. So it's very similar to Aubit or Comp or one of these types of products, except that we bring it over to the fiat side. Why is this important? If you have crypto, you don't want to sell it. You see that there's a long upside for you. If you do sell it, then you're going to pay capital gains tax. If you borrow against it, if you do debt financing with it, then it means you're able to keep your crypto. You're able to see it appreciate over time. You can get some of its value out. And depending on the jurisdiction you're in, the interest you're going to pay on that loan is going to be tax deductible. So these are the kinds of things that large companies and extremely wealthy individuals do all the time. They buy big buildings, borrow against them for cash. And then as the building appreciates, then their actual position becomes smaller and smaller. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring these very powerful financial instruments to the masses. So not just for companies like GE or Siemens, we wanted to bring them to, you know, a maid in Brazil or a shop worker in New York or a farmer in Sweden. We wanted to make these tools available to everybody. So one of the great things about DeFi is it has no jurisdiction. It has no bias. And when you think about lending and getting a loan, it it changes dramatically depending on the region you're in. So if I'm in California, I can get a loan for, 2-3%. But if I'm in Nairobi, that same loan is going to cost me 25 to 30%, and I can only borrow maybe 1/10 of the amount. So we wanted to be able to bring these values that have been built up through DeFi and express them and make them available for everybody all over the world.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I remember in the early days getting a feel for what you were doing and why you'd chosen Cardano and what was going on. Cardano really is the platform to start off on, but these DeFi things could extend to wherever, right? Meld as the platform could extend wherever, but it's a good place to start. And you did get some of the best technicians in the Cardano ecosystem, which is really, really hard, right? To get somebody super skilled in that. So I felt like you had the right team to do what you were doing. You had some fantastic ideas around DeFi innovation and loans. And one of the loans that caught my attention was your loan that could pay itself back over time.
The Genius loan, yeah.
Yeah, the Genius loan. Could you tell the audience about the Genius loan?
Yeah, so on face value, the Genius loan is very interesting because it's a loan that pays itself off. But this is a great illustration of what DeFi is really all about, which is this idea of transparency and that all parties involved in a particular transaction earn from that transaction. Everybody gets value out of the process. And so what we do is when you lock up your crypto in the smart contract, we use that crypto to generate a yield against it. So we sort of farm it. And then we get a yield from it. And that yield, part of that yield goes back to pay the principal on your loan. So that's the basic idea. This is done in traditional finance. When you have a collateral that you put up for borrowing against for a loan, the bank will take that collateral and they'll rehypothecate it. They'll lend it out again and they'll make a yield against it. The difference between what we're doing and what banks do is that because we're on the blockchain, all of these transactions are transparent. So we can't behave in a way where we secretly go and lend it out and make a bunch of money off of it, as well as getting interest from the loan itself. So the bank is making money off of both ends. We can't do that because we're in this kind of open environment. So what we want to do is we want to use that transparency to our benefit and say, look, this money is being made and part of it is going back to pay the stakers of Meld, and part of it is going to pay us. Everybody has to make money, and part of it is going to pay the principal down. And so it's the same model that is used in the traditional finance world. We're just spending the money, or we're directing the revenue to all participants, not to just us.
Which is absolutely amazing. So, I mean, a practical example, say somebody has $1.5 million Cardano and the price of Cardano is at $1 and they want to buy a $500,000 home. They could then stake their $1.5 million Cardano at a pretty low, low collateral. So they're borrowing like 33% against it, 500,000. Mm-hmm. That doesn't incur necessarily a taxable event in a lot of jurisdictions. Correct. They then pay off the house, but so then they pay interest on that loan every month. But in the meantime, they're just paying the interest. The meantime, the Cardano that's staking is earning a yield, and that's paying down. And a lot of those proceeds from that yield go to paying down the loan every month.
Correct. Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's a really nice idea, and it's I guess in part we can kind of take credit for it, but the reality is we're not sort of taking credit for it. We're just simply making some modifications to make the existing model more fair for everybody involved. So I don't know if it's something we can say that we created or not, but it doesn't really matter. The goal is to try and make it so that we create these kind of more friendly products for our customers so that everybody can win along the way.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, it's been a little while since we caught up. Last time we spoke, I think we were talking with Lucas from Vent, and we were talking about the bridge from Polygon to Cardano that you did a joint venture with Vent Finance to build. what's been going on? It's probably been about 5 months. Could you
Yeah,
share with us and update our Rainmaker family
sure.
on what Meld has been up to?
Yeah. So on the bridge side of things, the bridge is just now going into testnet. We should be able to launch it in beta in the next month. The bridge is called Akamon, so it means red gate, sort of to tie into the red of Meld. And we're building a Polygon to Cardano bridge, so you can bring your Ethereum assets via Polygon over to the Cardano ecosystem, and vice versa, move Cardano assets over onto Polygon and over onto the Ethereum ecosystem. And so part of the idea behind this is, because we're building a lending and borrowing protocol, we need to be able to get access to assets throughout the entire set of ecosystems. We need to be able to pull from Bitcoin, pull from Ethereum, pull from various different sources. And obviously, sort of the two big ones in the house are Ethereum and Bitcoin. So we wanted to use Polygon because Polygon is more capital efficient. It has lower transaction fees and this kinds of things. So it fit better into our model of working with Cardano because it's more capital efficient, and then be able to bring these assets across. And once the lending and borrowing is up and running, then we'll be able to lock them up into a smart contract and borrow against them.
That's awesome. So I guess, so the purpose of that is because there's so many assets already on Polygon, or essentially if somebody then has large amount of funds on ETH, they can then bring it easily over a bridge to Polygon, which then they can bridge it over to Cardano. Is that
correct?
So it opens up both those ecosystems through creating that bridge, right?
Yeah, and then you can bring over Ren BTC, so you can handle BTC, you can handle Ethereum, different types of assets, and you can handle Polygon assets. So we think of each of these blockchains as kind of liquidity pools. So we wanted to be able to access the biggest liquidity pools in the market to be able to work with them on our protocol.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what else has Meld been up to in the past 5 or 6 months?
So we've kind of, we launched our token in February. And with that, we launched the Meld app and we launched staking. So once our token was out and we got all this sort of housekeeping sorted out for the platform and for the protocol, we've been very, very focused on product development, product definition, focusing around the heavy lifting of building a protocol on the Cardano ecosystem. So we've also been working closely with IOG in regards to development and sort of giving them sort of bug fixes and showing them the code that we've been writing to sort of make things more efficient on the main sort of on the API connecting to the blockchain and different parts. So we've been helping a lot in regards to the sort of core code. And on top of that, we've been working on all of our smart contracts for lending and borrowing, partially in preparation for Hydra and all of the hard fork that's going to happen this summer, because we need to sort of be prepared for this when it comes about.
Well, I am happy to say that we did some coverage of Meld when you're doing your initial stake pool offering. I know a lot of our audience participated in that, and they've done really well. And they're happy, even after this pullback, they've still done really well. And this pullback has affected everything, but actually it hasn't affected Meld as much as most things. Meld's done really, really well, but I do feel like, so I'm looking at CoinGecko right now, and I'm not so much talking about market price so much as the fully diluted valuation. It is reflected on CoinGecko, but about 1/4 the tokens are in circulation or higher than that right now.
Yeah, it's about 1/4 of the tokens are in circulation if you include the tokens that are locked up in Meld staking pools. So if you include that, then it's less than that.
So the total market cap would be about 60 million right now, which is a range I'm really interested in on great long-term projects that their market caps are at attractive prices like that.
Yeah.
Now, you were sharing something interesting with me before we got started on this about how many that participated in the initial stake pool offering that still just have theirs staked.
Yeah, so we can see some of these analytics through the blockchain, and we see that about half, about 500 million of the Meld tokens that were released in the token launch, they've been staked in Meld staking pools. So there's about 500 million tokens that are out there in circulation right now. And we can also see that of all those wallets, only about 50% of those wallets have withdrawn Meld tokens from them. So it seems that a large majority of our participants in the ISPO and in the private sale seem to be long-term holders of Meld and be interested in holding it at least until later this summer when we launch the Meld banking app and the fiat products and the debit card and these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's a great statistic because it does show the faith that your community has in Meld, because that's not very normal, actually. So it's definitely way above normal. And that just means that, I guess my interpretation of what that means is that people believe in Meld. Could you share,
at least for the time being, they want to see a bigger price action on it, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. They believe the future value is a lot higher than the present value.
Yeah.
Could you share with us what Meld has on the roadmap for the next 6 months?
So I think that the big thing is obviously the bridge that's coming out, and hopefully that's going to be very useful for a lot of protocols to be able to bring assets over, DEXs, etc. We're going to be launching our banking app, so be able to handle fiat, be able to create accounts that can handle fiat currencies, so dollars, euros, yen, sterling, and a debit card. And so we're working very, very hard on that right now with the jurisdiction's central bank that we've chosen, and we're hoping to bring that out and have more announcements about that over the summer. And then at the end of summer and the fall, we'll be launching those products. At the same time, we have the bridge that's coming, and then after that, we will have the lending and borrowing protocol launching. So in connection to that, both the protocol as well as the banking side, we have announced NFTs. So we have 2 NFTs that we have in place right now. One are what we call the Diamond Hands NFTs. These were a set of NFTs that we issued for people that were staking in the Meld ISPO in the first 3 weeks. So they are sort of our first people that were committed to the Meld project. So we wanted to sort of reward them, and we just gave them these NFTs as a gift, saying, okay, you have this NFT. That means you were kind of there from day one. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And then after that, we announced the Bank Manager NFTs. So the Bank Manager NFTs are kind of a proper PFP series, and they will be minted and airdropped or available, mintable, by all of the ISPO participants. So if you participated even in one epoch in the ISPO, you'll be eligible to mint yourself a bank manager. And the bank manager has special capabilities. The bank manager will allow you to either get a 0.3% reduction in your loan interest. So it reduces the interest on your loan, and it will provide you with a boost on your staking. So if you decide to stake Meld and you use the NFT there, then it'll boost your Meld yield. And if you use it on the loan, then it will reduce your interest. So it's an NFT that, one, sort of shows that you were part of the ISPO, and two, we wanted to sort of say thank you and sort of give something back to all the people that participated in it and put some utility into the NFTs, because we wanted them to have some function. And so then in regards to the banking products that we're going to be launching, the Diamond Hands NFT, we're going to allow people to use their Diamond Hands NFT when the product comes live, and they will get early access to the product, and they will get massive discounts in regards to use of the banking applications and the banking services.
That's really cool. I love that you're rewarding people that have believed in you. And I think everyone else will love that too. And those NFTs, if Meld is ultimately does really well in the next 5 or 10 years, with those bank manager NFTs, this is speculative on my part, but
not financial advice.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for let's just say my own personal interest on those is high. Now, I wondered if you could look into the future and just make some guesses with me on where you would like to see Meld, say, 5 and 10 years from now, and what your vision, what you would love to see it become.
I think 5 years from now, the vision really is to be a parallel track to what people today consider to be a bank or consider the services that banks offer. What we'll never do is we'll never do kind of highly leveraged lending, things like this, but just giving basic, send and receive and simple lending and these kinds of instruments, making them available to everybody all over the world, not just in these kinds of, in mainland Europe or the United States, but also available in South America, available in Africa, available in Southeast Asia. We want to be able to offer these types of products to people everywhere. So we have partners in Africa, and we're discussing with potential partnerships in South America as well, so that people can get access to these types of products. What we don't believe in is this idea that you can get people out of poverty by putting them into debt. So we think that especially DeFi has the potential it has the framework in place to be able to create new types of financial instruments that enable people to get access to money and sort of simplify their lives and make it more stable for them, but at the same time not constantly putting them into deep debt over a long period of time. And so it's this spirit that we're trying to realize over the next 5 years. And with the partnerships that we are working with in place, we see that the Meld app will be available pretty much everywhere in the world and can be used by people to transfer value into various different ways, and also be able to continue to do this lending and borrowing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's exciting where DeFi is going, because I do see that crypto and DeFi bring a lot of people out of poverty. I just had a call this morning with a project that's working out of Africa, and they're doing some very effective things. And one of the biggest problems in, say, Africa is that the governments control the currencies there, and they just print like crazy, and it devalues the savings of everyone. So that's the number one thing that keeps, people in certain countries, not just in Africa, it's in many countries, is they don't have a true store of value. And so they can't hold money in that. So a lot of places, they'll literally just take their money, they'll go buy a few buckets full of bricks, and they'll use the bricks to store their value. Whereas if with crypto, depending on what crypto it is, they can store it in cryptocurrency. Then if they can take that cryptocurrency and earn a yield, even better. And then the next part is they can grow their assets or their savings account and then make loans against that savings account. Then they have access to true financial instruments that can change their life, right? So
yeah,
there's times where we need to borrow, and for a house or for other items. And if you see what's great about those countries is they work very, very hard. They just need something to store their value in that won't evaporate. And then being able to borrow against their own savings would make perfect sense to them.
There's other things you can do as well. When you start to sort of look at the different interactions of money in these different ecosystems, you can take each interaction and you can start to play with it and find a different way of approaching it. So we have a partnership with a company called Campe. They're a lottery operator in Africa. And what we're working with them on is they're selling their lottery tickets. And if somebody wins on the lottery, then it will go into their Campe wallet. But the wallet also includes a connection to Meld. So they're able to then take all of their winnings and put that into the wallet and lock it up into a smart contract. They can borrow 25% of the value of that winnings in cash or in other crypto if they want to. And they don't ever have to pay it back. So the loan, very similar to the Genius loan, will pay itself off. And then once it's paid off, then all of the earnings from that lottery ticket will go to them. But if they convert that lottery ticket when they do it into crypto, then over the time that payment, that loan gets paid off, the value of the crypto will have gone up. So we're trying to incentivize people to get some of the value out. Don't go into debt. Use that as a baseline for building your savings, and then wait for a while for it to appreciate. And once it starts to appreciate, then that sort of aha moment happens, right? People get the idea, oh, look, I have this thing, 4 years later, it's worth much more. This is a good idea. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to use it. Or maybe I'll borrow against it again, but I'm not going to actually get rid of it because it's going to be something that's going to continually give me value. And so it's this kind of thinking, working with different partners all over the world to try and come up with clever ways to make it possible for people to not go into debt, but get some of the value out of what they have in hand at that moment.
Yeah, which has been a tool that only the rich has been able to use, right? I had a mentor in real estate investing, and he had some land worth, I know what just this asset was, so I don't know what his true net worth was, but he had some land that I researched and figured out the value on. It was worth about 200 million. And what he'd do is he would never sell it. He had owned it for 20 years. When he needed some cash, he'd go borrow another million against it, which, is very low collateralization. And and so we never had to sell it because every 10 years the land would double or triple in value,
right?
And general people haven't had access to those type of tools. They've always had to sell their assets out. In order to buy this house, I got to sell and get the equity out of this one, and haven't had the ability to, I guess, just borrow at an interest rate that makes sense from the assets that you have so that they can keep growing assets. And with the inflation, certain countries have been modest inflation until now, but with some countries around the world, you couldn't just save your currency because it would have way less value in the future, and no interest rate could keep up with that.
Right.
And so with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and ETH and the ability to wrap these, then they can have assets that a lot of people can believe in the long term in, grow those assets as their savings account, but then use DeFi to, when they need to get access to some of those funds, just borrow against it.
Yeah, and the great thing is that, part of the reason why they've not been available is because the services have not been offered, or they've only been effective at very, very high dollar amounts. And because we're dealing in crypto, where every asset is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's always price discovery on everything. That makes it so that this entire ecosystem is fluid in how you use the different elements of it, and that just kind of opens up for so many different opportunities. And when you produce a DeFi protocol, you don't build these barriers, you don't build these gates. There are no gatekeepers to it to say that you in there can do this and you over here cannot do this. And so these sort of core characteristics, I think, really define the nature of DeFi and why we sort of got into it in the first place. And that it's those characteristics that are going to be opened up to such a vast audience of people over the next 5 years. And we want to make sure that Meld is there so that we can actually be a part of that narrative and have the discussion with this mass population about how to use them.
Yeah, it's exciting where this is going now. I know a lot of my audience, currently the prices on just about everything is tanked, and
Yeah,
as
yeah.
normal human beings, we get a little bit scared. And, a lot of what I do is share perspective because I've been an investor for 25 years now, just close to 5 years in the crypto space. And we have these pullbacks and people get worried. And what I try to share with them is the vision of where this is going so that they're not short-term focused, right? These pullbacks happen, and basically there was a big sell-off in tech stocks, and a lot of traders trade Bitcoin like a tech stock. And so a lot of Bitcoin went down. That caused some cascading longs to get liquidated, brought it down even further. There's evidence that there's some whale manipulation. I mean, on the good side, I shared with my audience that the number of longs on Bitfinex, which is where a lot of whales play, is equal to what it was of July of last year. And if they look at where prices were July of last year, that was a bottom. And so is this a bottom? Nah, I hope so. It might be, but I'm more long-term focused of where this is going to be in 5 or 10 years, because I remember when Amazon's stock price was in the tanks and people were complaining about it. Oh my gosh, they're still not making money and their stock price is way down and there'll never be anything, right? But it's like they had this vision of, well, we're a bookseller and then we're expanding into other things and just give it some time. And a lot of people didn't, and they sold a technology that was like reasonable to expect because they were getting a lot of business that would continue forward, but yet they sold because of impatience and cashed out. And now that stock is, would have made a lot of those people multi-millionaires. And so we can't say exactly what the future holds, but for myself, I'm still very heavy in the space. I'm not cashing out. I'm not selling. I still very much believe through these little interruptions that we've had, and maybe it even goes down further. And if it does, that's okay too, because this technology will change the world. It just takes some patience to get there. And I know, in being in the space, I talk with a lot of people who are newer in the space, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing. It just goes up and up and up. And I was like, yeah, give it a while. You'll see it doesn't just go up and up and up. And when it goes down, it's painful enough that it shakes a lot of people out of the space. And the ones that just stick around and stay here and find projects that they believe in and diversify, because sometimes even great projects don't make it. But then, I think there's a very bright future. And I appreciate you laying out some of the things that Meld is offering so that the audience can understand really where this is going and why these kind of products will change the world.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think that, you go through the roller coaster and you go through these different periods when you get into crypto, and you need these big dips in order to get some humility and to get some, battle scars around the space. And then once you've gone through a few of them, then you start to have a bit of a more level-headed perspective, and you start trading less emotionally, more rationally, etc. And so it's something that sort of is at the top of mind with regards to what we're doing, because we're with regards to Meld, our focus needs to be on product development, not on the market, right? We've launched our token. We have a token. It's very easy to get myopic about that. But our goal is to focus on the product. The only way our token is going to go anywhere is if we deliver on the promise and if we deliver on the product. And so, we had a period just recently of about a month where we didn't really say much in the market. And it wasn't for any reason except for the fact that, we are very focused on delivering the product. We're very focused on product development and the technology development and getting the sort of, getting all the bits and pieces together so that we can actually meet our roadmap. But, it's something that you kind of have to juggle between, is this sort of talking to the market and at the same time developing your product. But it is really, the goal is to get the product out there, and all of the organization is focused around that now.
Yeah, like real use case for yours, like a real, like that I can see is, say somebody's an investor now, they don't get shaken out and they invest in several different things, and say they have some Cardano, they have some Meld, they have some other things. And 5 years from now, say the value of those is up, and all of a sudden their car has a massive breakdown. and they need $4,000, and they don't have it from their job yet. They don't want to sell off their crypto. So they open up the Meld app and they're like, okay, I'm going to lock up this $30,000 worth of Cardano that I have into this. I'm going to borrow at a really low interest rate on a Genius loan that's going to pay itself back. As long as the principal will pay itself back, I just pay the interest over this period. And okay, borrow $4,000. Okay, let me send that over to the repair shop, and bam.
Yeah, and you'll be able to go
at an interest rate that they're very happy with, and that they can just make the interest payments, and the principal is going to pay itself back. And they're super excited. They didn't even, in many jurisdictions, create a taxable event. And so that people can see like where this is going. And that's what's exciting to me, is where this is going. And I can see that becoming so easy. And like, our kids, this will become part of their everyday life as they become old enough to participate in these things. And they'll not be able to picture a time when that wasn't possible.
Yeah, it's going to be strange. I mean, when we look at the statistics, we see the two biggest areas of growth in crypto is kids under the age of 18 and women over the age of 50. And so right now, 20% of the market is people under the age of 18, which should be a really, really telling number that gives you some idea as to how the adoption is coming along and who is actually starting to pay close attention to this. We had an 18-year-old in our private sale, and it was the first sort of signable investment that he was doing. And he'd been investing for several years, and he could come into our private sale, which had a very high ticket price, as an investor. And he was just an 18-year-old, just turned 18, it's so telling. This is such an incredibly empowering set of technologies, and all we have to do is assist and try and focus that power down to something that allows us to offer it to a really, really broad audience. What we want to try and do our best to avoid is simply making another financial instrument for the traditional financial markets, for the institutional markets to play in. This needs to be a product for the masses.
It's really exciting to me where it's going. And I think about the early days of the internet, and I remember some newscasters, they didn't get it, and they're like, oh, this internet thing is a fad. And, and a bunch of naysayers about it that just refused to take the time to really understand the technology so that they could get a vision of where it was going. And the internet's completely changed the way everything operates. And I think cryptocurrency and the technology is going that way. I'm still trying to explain to my parents. So I've gotten through with them. My dad's finally going to buy some Bitcoin, but still he hasn't seen past. It's not just Bitcoin. I call Bitcoin cryptocurrency 1.0, which was, potentially a store of value, like a digital gold. But the blockchain discovery that happened led to, in the use cases for the blockchain and what the cryptographical encryption, you take those couple things together, and the technology that unlocked will change the world much the way the internet changed the world. And it's really exciting where it's going, because now you can have like true ownership. You can have custody of your own value. It unlocked a lot of things, the simplicity of loans, because in the cryptocurrency space, like you were saying, Meld can see there's price analysis and price discovery, what the value of assets are in any given minute. And so you can loan against those assets. People can borrow against those assets. For those that participate in this technology growth sector and they're smart with the picks that they make, the value growth of their savings could grow tremendously. And that's, what we talk about on this channel, because that's what I'm super excited about. I grew up relatively, let's say, modestly poor. I jokingly say we were too poor to buy Kool-Aid, because my mom, once a month, she would get us 2 packets, not of Kool-Aid, but of Flavor Aid, because it was a lot cheaper than Kool-Aid. So we had 2 packets we'd get to use per month. And so as I was growing up, I learned, that you could make your money make money for you, because you're fixed on how much time you could spend in the day. But if you could find a way to save and then make that money work for you, how exciting that innovation was. It is exciting that then as you grow some assets, you can then borrow easily against those assets. And, and hopefully many people get to the point, if they've done well in this space and they grow a large amount of assets as this technology booms, you just continually borrow small amounts against those assets and essentially not even create a taxable event, and in many jurisdictions, and then live very well.
That's kind of one of the things that we're starting the process of now, is to try and educate people about how these mechanics work. We get a lot of questions about, what happens if we go into a bear market? How are you guys going to handle it? And, the way that it typically works for people that know how to handle money, they don't borrow in a bull market. They borrow in a bear market. It's better terms for them to borrow in a bear market. And then when it comes to a bull market again, then what they've borrowed, the relationship between the collateral and what they borrowed changes dramatically in their favor. And so if you go into a bear market, and this is not financial advice, if you go into a bear market, then what you don't want to do is sell off all your assets. You want to wait for the next bull market, right? And so what are you going to do? You're going to use the assets you have, borrow a little bit against them, so that you can see some of that value, and then you're able to sort of operate your life until you get to the next bull market, and then you're able to see a lot of those returns. And so it's some of this education on not necessarily in reference to Meld, but just in general on how you use these instruments in order to manage your, it's kind of hard, you can't really call it wealth. Has such a sort of large number term to it, but sort of just manage your economy so that you can sort of maintain your position, and you can see through these different waves that happen through these economic cycles.
Yeah, and borrowing against crypto assets, you made a really good point that it's much smarter to borrow during the down market, because, in crypto, the volatility gets less and less every 4 years, but the volatility is still quite great. So you don't want to borrow at like 33% leverage at the top of the market against your thing. Otherwise, you're going to have to provide more collateral to keep that loan solvent, and that can be a pain. But my mentor, one of the things he did was just borrowed small amounts of leverage. He let his assets grow to the point that he could borrow significant amounts, $1 million or $2 million, and it was still a very small proportion of his overall collateral, so that even if the value decreased, he was very solvent and didn't have worries about a liquidation event.
Yeah, so this is something that we're doing, is trying to educate people about this, and we want to make sure that when we do launch our products, they'll be designed around this idea of trying to keep people safe as opposed to trying to leverage people out to the edge. Like you said, if you look at these liquidation events that have been happening over the last couple of days, a lot of people are heavily leveraged. They have really, really leveraged long positions, and they get themselves into sort of difficult states. And so we've been trying, in regards to how we structure things, we've been trying to make it so that we're not putting people into those positions. We're trying to put people into a relatively safe position while they can still get some of their assets. We want to create a relationship with them where they trust us, as opposed to they worry about, being liquidated in the middle of the night or something like that.
Yeah, and high leverage leads to high worry, and it's hard to invest smart when you're worried all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're emotional creatures by nature as human beings, but then you add in that worry factor because the leverage is too high, it becomes uncomfortable, and then we actually act out of either fear or greed, and it never works all that well when we're at that emotional state, right? And we can't make the logical decisions. I love the care that you give to the end user, right? And I think DeFi tools used properly will make many people around the world in many countries, it'll give them access to wealth accumulation and smart use of finances that they haven't been able to have. And I hope it cleans up some of the corruption in the sense that since the beginning of time, like at first gold was used as a store of value, and then it was banknotes. And the reason why banknotes was that gold was so hard to carry around and use, but then people entrusted their government, not that the government has used that very well, but it was safer than a private business to entrust that kind of store of value to through like these banknotes and other things, or Federal Reserve currencies. But we're seeing that a lot of these countries, they're just printing off like crazy, and it's deflating the value of everyone's savings. And what Satoshi had was this idea of code being what you had to trust in, and it's this code that you would trust in. So no longer did you have to trust a centralized agency or government for a potential store of value. So like a digital gold, and you could accumulate some wealth there, and then DeFi is allowing you to borrow against some of that, not just Bitcoin but other crypto assets. And I think this is going to change the world in the next 20 years, and that some countries that have just floundered because a new dictator comes in, prints away the value of the currency like crazy, and makes himself and all his friends super wealthy in the process by essentially diluting the savings of everyone else. They can't save in those countries, but allow them access to assets like cryptocurrency and being able to save and then borrow against those assets for when they need to build their house. I think that will change their lives. And therefore, when you're making all these small changes to people's lives across the whole world, it changes the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're seeing the adoption of it in all walks of life, right? Everything from, small shops in Nigeria are using Bitcoin in order to do international trade, to countries legalizing Bitcoin as a national currency. You see sort of fund managers that are not allowed to invest in cryptocurrency are putting huge portions of their own personal investment into cryptocurrency. And so it's kind of a telling narrative around these different points where you're seeing that, it has passed that threshold of adoption where it cannot go away. It cannot be ignored anymore.
Yeah, it's too widely adopted, and you're seeing I think the U.S. had some hiccups where some I think got put into some legislation in the U.S. by a senator that I had never heard of the senator before. And I follow U.S. politics a little bit because it does have such a widespread effect. But then all of a sudden the crypto lobby woke up, or a lot of these crypto projects like Sam Bankman-Fried and other people like woke up, and they created a crypto lobby, which is now becoming quite powerful. And I think you're seeing, and the politicians got an earful in every one of the states, is what I heard. Their politicians got an earful that a lot of the senators who had been backing that bill were now trying to pull it down and take it down and take it out, because they realized how powerful this concept was to so many of the voters around the world. And so a lot of the democracies, or I think their people are going to demand that this get allowed to be pushed forward more. So that'd be exciting if that comes together that way.
I agree completely.
Well, thanks so much, Ken, for joining us. We've really appreciated your time. Loved the update myself. I'm sure the audience did too.
Super. I'm happy to come on anytime. And yeah, I appreciate all the questions and you sort of following up and supporting Meld.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. See you later. Bye.
All right. In the audience, are you ready to be a rainmaker? If you haven't joined us already, join what I call the Navy SEALs of crypto and level up your crypto game. Now, why Navy SEALs? Well, Navy SEALs are not just your above average, but they're the best. They don't easily quit when it's hard. If you notice lately, it's been hard. In crypto, in just 15 minutes or so a day, learning day after day over time, it'll put you in the top 1% to 2% with your understanding of the crypto market. And if you use the knowledge and understanding that you've learned towards smart investment principles, which is what we talk about here on this channel, I think your crypto journey is going to be a great one. Remember, no rain, no gain.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I sit the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. Principles are simple, believe in a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but when knowledge you gain show. Seeking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go with the hate, make the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.